Let us return to the demo and bring in navigation through the use of a navigation service. By the end of this demo, our application will actually feel like a real application because we're going to be able to navigate from one screen to the next. Up until now, we've only seen the overview screen, but we have that second screen, but we can't reach it because we have no navigation support. So in this demo, I'm going to be bringing in support for navigation. Now, should I be doing directly in this view model navigation? Well, indeed, the view model is responsible for the flow of the application. It will be the one that says, okay, now we need to navigate to the detail screen. But if I bring in a dependency on navigation within my view model, I am actually making my view model less testable. That is not why we're here. We want to keep things as clean as possible. So we are, just like we did in the previous demo, going to create a separate service again that encapsulates everything that has to do with navigation in our application, and we'll use that from our view models. So let's do that. Let's again go to the services folder, and we'll now bring in a service that is going to wrap everything that has to do with navigation. Again, I'll create an interface, the iNavigation service interface. And so this is what my navigation service will need to be able to do. It will need a link with page. That will be the main page in my application that I need to load new pages within. And that, of course, is a Xamarin Forms page. So this is a dependency on a UI element that I now don't have in my view model, but I will put it in this separate service class, the iNavigation service and the navigation service. What else is our navigation service going to be able to do? Well, it needs to be able to go back, navigate to another page, and I also have a configure method which I'll use to create a mapping between a name of a page and the class that contains the functionality for that page. You'll see what this is going to do in just a minute. Just like before, go to the services, and in there you'll find the navigation service that we'll use. It's a bit more code, so I'd rather not type it, but take you through it. So make sure to drag this into the services folder. So what is our navigation service going to do? Well, to start, it implements the iNavigation service. This main page property makes it very clear that this navigation service now has a dependency on the UI. Indeed, we are referencing here the application's main page, since we will need to be able to load a new view, a new page, into this main page property. So we have now successfully, let's say, encapsulated this UI dependency in this separate service. My navigation service also keeps track of a list of all the pages that are within my application. I do that in this dictionary, where I will map, let's say, a name for the page, a string, with a view type. You'll see me use the configure method to add pages to that dictionary. I've also created an implementation for the go back method, which will again use the main page and then the navigation on that main page to pop a page of the navigation stack. This is giving away that we will very soon be working with a navigation page built into Xamarin Forms. I am going to use the pop async method, part of the built-in iNavigation interface, to pop a page of the backstack of the built-in navigation page. We'll need to make that change in the app.xamarin.cs very soon. I also have a navigate to method that accepts the key, the page I want to navigate to, and optionally also a parameter. I will then instantiate that page, set the parameter, and push that new page onto the navigation backstack of the navigation page in the main page. I'm using the key to find that page within this dictionary here to find the type I need to instantiate. I also have this navigation extensions class, which has the set navigation args to allow me to add arguments to the page. At this point, my navigation service is more or less ready. I am going to, just like I did with the IPyData service, create an instance of the navigation service on the application level. So I've now created a singleton instance of my navigation service. Now with that ready, I'm now going to, let's say, set up the known pages within that navigation service. And for that, we're going to use this configure method to allow me to pass new pages with their identifier to the dictionary, so that my navigation service knows which are the available pages within my application. Now this uses a string as the key, so I'm going to create a couple of constants to keep track of the names of my pages. So under utility, I'm going to create a new class, and I'm going to call it viewNames. In this class, I'm going to list out all the pages I have within my application. we just have two views, Pi Overview view and Pi Detail view. But of course, any page that we add to our application will require a new name to identify our view. With this in hand, we can now use the Navigations Service configure method to configure the dictionary of known pages in the navigation service. And we should do that as soon as the application starts. So I'm going to do that in the constructor of the application. So over here, I'm now going to use the navigation service configure method, passing in the key for the page, as well as the type that corresponds with that string. That will build up this dictionary here. Now my navigation service has this dictionary build up that contains the string, the page name, and the type it needs to show over here. Now, like I said, at this point, the main page property is now just instantiating the Pi Overview view. That needs to be changed. We actually need to wrap everything within a navigation page. That is the navigation page built into Xamarin Forms. And that is, by the way, also the navigation page that I rely on here to pop a page off the backstack or to push a new page onto the backstack. So I'm actually relying here in my navigation service on the navigation page part of Xamarin Forms. Now at this point, I can actually use navigation. We are going to use that from the Overview view model. Now where am I going to use that? We are here in the Pi Overview view model, and I am going to use the application.navigation service, and I'm going to call the navigate to navigate to the detail page. Let's bring in the using statement. So I navigate here to the detail page and I pass in the selected Pi. Also, when I invoke the add command, I'm going to invoke this method here, and there too I'll want to navigate. I'll want to navigate to the detail view, but without passing in an existing Pi, because we want to create a new one. So at this point, I think the overview model is ready. It now knows about navigation. We still need to go back to our detail view model and somehow over here capture the parameter that is passed in and set that into the selected Pi. This is that parameter here. How are we going to do that? Well, let me show you what I recommend doing here. Let's go to the base view model. In here, I'll create another method that therefore becomes available for each view model within my application. I'll call this method initialize, and as you can see, it is accepting a parameter. Interesting. This way I can actually call this initialize method and pass in a parameter. But I'd rather not have one view model call the second view model to pass this parameter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rely again on my navigation service. Let me show you. Over here, I'm now going to use that initialize method. What I'm doing here is the following. I have the page, that's the page that's being created, and I therefore can also ask what is the binding context. And the binding context is already set to be the view model. We've done that over here. So using this, we actually can access the view model from the navigation service. And then I call the initialize method onto it, passing in our parameter. I can now leverage this in the Pi Detail view model. I can over here override the initialize method that accepts the parameter, and I can check if the passed in parameter is null. Well, then I'm actually adding a new Pi. If not, I'm going to cast it into a Pi and set that as the selected Pi. Now, while we're at it, we are also going to use the navigation service here to, when we are clicking on the Save button, navigate to the previous screen. I'm also going to check if the selected Pi.id is empty. Then we're inserting a new Pi, so I'm going to use the Pi data service to add it. Otherwise, we're updating an existing Pi. Next, I'm going to use my navigation service again to call the goback method. That will then allow us to navigate to the previous screen. I think our application is pretty much ready. Let's try it out. So I can load my Pis as before. I can click on one of the Pis and we navigate to the details. Fantastic, we have implemented navigation. Let us now also try updating a Pi. Let's make this into a strawberry summer Pi. Save the Pi. That didn't work. My Pi doesn't seem to be updated. Did I do something wrong? Well, let me put a breakpoint here in the overview view model. I'm going to put a breakpoint here in the onload command. Let me load the Pis again. Let's take a look at the Pis. I changed the first Pi, and that seems to have changed. What could be wrong here? Now, what if I tell you that this is caused by a data binding issue that we haven't fixed yet? my observable collection of pies notifies when a change is made to the list, but the individual pies are not notifying the UI when they have changed. So data binding doesn't notice. How can we fix that? Well, the answer is we need to go back to the pie entity and we'll need to have it implement the iNotify property changed. I have now updated the pie so it implements the iNotify property changed and will call the raised_property_changed method that I will show you in just a second when the value of the ID, pie name, or any other property has changed. Here you see the raised_property_changed. It's just the same one as we had on the base view model. Let us now run the application again and take a look at the result. So I'm going to load the pies again, click on one of the pies, change that again to strawberry summer pie, save it, and yes, our pie has updated. Now while we're at it, let's also try the functionality to add a new pie. Save that new pie, but it's not showing. We seem to have another small issue. I'll show you what is wrong and how we can fix it in the next part.